It was a peaceful summer's evening in 2022. Three teenagers were spending the night at a friend's house, celebrating their recent graduation from high school. Mackenzie Shirilla was the designated driver for the end of the night. Her boyfriend of 3 years and his friend both trusted her to get them home safely. But what if this was the last thing she wanted? In this CCTV footage, Mackenzie can be seen driving at 100 miles per hour down a quiet street before smashing into a building. The collision killed both her boyfriend and his friend. Mackenzie claimed that this was a tragic accident.
I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davion. We were all friends and Dom was my soulmate.
But ironically, merely 3 months after the crash, she was seen dressed up as a corpse. Is this the behavior of an innocent victim or a cold-blooded killer? This is the case of Mackenzie Shirilla. It was the end of July 2022 in the peaceful town of Strongsville, Ohio. The seniors of that year's graduating class looked forward to bright futures. Their parents were proud of them. This was the case for Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan, both 19. Dominic was one of 8 children, a go-getter who loved playing basketball and was driven to succeed. He was starting his own clothing line. Davion, too, had ambitions. He and his 2 biological sisters spent some of their early years in foster care. Both of their parents were addicts, and the children were removed from their parents' home as a result of neglect. Life in the foster system was no easier. When the siblings were adopted by husband and wife Scott and Jamie Flanagan, Jamie recalls they were very underweight. Rescued from a difficult life, Davion recognized that he'd been given a second chance. He was determined to grasp this chance with both hands.
He could pick up any sport and be good at it from the start. So he was mainly focused on football. That was his passion.
When leg injuries foiled his dreams of football, he developed another dream, that of going to barber college and opening his own shop. Davion was a resourceful teen who taught himself the basic skills from YouTube and TikTok, and he had only recently submitted his application to the Allstate Barber College. Life beyond July was full of hope for both young men, yet an unforeseeable tragic ending lay in store for both of them. To all appearances, Mackenzie Shirilla was a typical, if risk-taking teenage girl. She had her own TikTok account where she posted careless videos of herself joking about her use of illicit substances.
I'm not even cool. I'm just one of those girls that can do a lot of drugs and not die.
She frequently posed with paraphernalia in photos taken in her car. This was irresponsible criminal behavior, but no one could have predicted where it would lead. What started as a whirlwind teen romance had continued for over 3 years. Mackenzie was now living with Dominic and his family, and apparently the cramped quarters had taken their toll on the young lovers' relationship. At school, she had been considered something of a bully. According to Davion's mother, Mackenzie would make it her business to humiliate people and took delight in it. In the past, she had told people who were depressed to themselves. This chilling lack of empathy was the first sign that something would go terribly wrong. Mackenzie and Dominic frequently fought and broke up before making up again as if nothing had happened. She treated him in the same way she had treated everyone else at school, displaying narcissism and an impulse to inflict hurt. Her own personality, combined with a pressurized environment that was constant cohabitation with Dominic, gave rise to one incident in particular that gave a disturbing taste of what was yet to come. On July 17, 2022, Mackenzie was driving her Toyota Camry on Interstate 71. Dominic was her passenger. They were in the middle of an argument, and as was so often the case, their conflict was taking place inside a shared confined space. Dominic wanted out. He phoned his mother asking to be picked up. When she was not available, he He then asked a friend. This friend was on the other end of the line when he heard Mackenzie say, "I'll crash this car right now." Dominic's friend sped to the scene, and when he pulled up behind Mackenzie's car stopped on the side of the road, Dominic's door was open. As Dominic sat there, Mackenzie was hitting him with both hands.
He observed at that time the defendant striking Dominic Russo with both hands, and that he overheard her make a statement, an admissible statement, and she said, "Dominic, I'm going to crash this car."
In another incident that same month, Dominic recorded another argument. In the videos, Mackenzie could be heard repeatedly degrading him. Things had clearly degenerated between the couple. From living together, he was now no longer comfortable with her presence in his house. She threatened to key his car if he wouldn't let her in, or else break off the door handle.
Does that mean you key my car? Tell you to break
I
the
will
door.
key your car and you do not let me in the house.
You're gonna key my car.
If you don't let me in the house, yes.
She counted down, enforcing a time limit for him to come and let her into the house. When Dominic still didn't open the door, Mackenzie said, "You're gonna come open this door right now, or there's gonna be a serious problem." Once again, Dominic called his mom for help. The involvement of his mother in both situations reminds us as to just how young both Dominic and Mackenzie were. The conflict in their relationship continued to escalate, but no one could have predicted where the relationship would end. At approximately 5:30 in the morning of July 31st, 2022, a car crashed into a Strongsville building at speeds of 100 miles per hour. This car was a Toyota Camry. Its passengers were Dominic Russo and his friend Davion Flanagan. Its driver was its owner, Mackenzie Shirilla. Dominic and Davion died at the scene. Mackenzie was unconscious and not breathing. She was flown to the hospital in critical condition. To all appearances, this was a tragic accident that had cut short the lives of two promising young high school graduates and seriously endangered the life of a third. This was what the community believed.
These kids are part of my heart. You lose one, and it hurts. It hurts till you cry.
It was shocking. We've known Davion for about 14 years. They've been neighbors of ours. We've watched him grow up from this little scrawny kid to this big muscular football player. And he was really like a third son for me. So it was devastating.
GoFundMe pages were set up for each person involved in the crash. Family and friends were donating to memorial funds for Dominic and Davion and to support Mackenzie's family in covering her medical expenses. As Mackenzie recovered, she took to posting on Dominic's obituary page. She wrote seemingly heartfelt messages saying things like, "I miss your laugh, your perfect smile, and God, you are the last person to deserve this. You had such a perfect life ahead of you. I wish I told you all this more. Please wait for me." Her grief was public and apparently sincere. No one could help but sympathize with Mackenzie, this teenage girl who'd been the victim of such an awful accident. But that was before they knew the truth.
Shortly after the crash, Strongsville police were notified that they had received concerning emails from the community that the defendant and her mother were seeking employment with the Los Angeles modeling agency. Kenzie Shirilla said to Vitali, "Thank you for the comment. I would love to work with you guys. I've been emailing you guys a lot. Such a great opportunity. Thank you."
Is there a date?
There is not a date on this, Your Honor. Based on the investigation, it was delivered to the police while the defendant was still in the Metro Health Hospital. So it was during that time period. She was in the hospital for several weeks. Shortly after being released from the hospital, the police were provided additional videos of the defendant from her wheelchair as she attended a concert down in the Flats. And again, Your Honor, I'm introducing these to the court to show the shocking lack of remorse. This was something that was being exhibited while the investigation was still going on, before she was charged and arrested in November of last year. And these were the sort of things that were coming to the police, and the shocking lack of remorse, coupled with the fact that the defendant was reported driving an automobile shortly after this event, that she was seen in Strongsville again driving a car. In spite of the fact that, as her mother testified, she got dizzy sometimes from a condition that she had to take salt pills for, in spite of the fact that it was, in fact, her mother who provided her with the car that she used to take Dominic and Davion's life.
12 weeks later, on October 31st, 2022, Mackenzie had recovered enough to celebrate Halloween. She and her friends went out on the town trick-or-treating, dressed as corpses. In a corset and heavy makeup, Mackenzie was almost unrecognizable. She certainly looked nothing like the grieving victim of a horrific auto accident who'd lost her boyfriend only 3 months before. In another outfit for the same celebration, she dressed as Drank, a popular concoction with teenagers made of cough syrup, alcohol, and a soft drink combined. Her friend was dressed as a Joint. Together, they celebrated substance abuse and death, the terrible hallmarks of her recent trauma. Indeed, the police found evidence of illicit substances inside the crashed car. And Mackenzie's blood had been tested the morning of the crash, and the level of THC in her bloodstream had been found to be over the legal limit. This on its own would be enough to charge her with driving under the influence, changing the traffic accidents into the consequence of reckless teenage behavior. But a mere 5 days after Mackenzie's decadent Halloween outing, the police charged her with double homicide. The tragedy that had torn apart 3 families and had rocked a tight-knit community was now under doubt. Had it been a reckless accident or a deliberate act of murder? Mackenzie's lawyers contended that she had lost control of the car. As a teenager, they suggested, she might have been easily overwhelmed by a chaotic situation and unable to stop the car and save its passengers' lives. The attorneys pointed to how common reckless driving is among young people. They described Mackenzie as inexperienced and irresponsible, but not a murderer.
Is it just kids being kids? Is it Dominic grabbing the steering wheel? Is it Mackenzie maybe speeding and say, oh my God, dark out, it's light, I'm coming up to this, I better do something, and she goes like that to avoid an accident, not acting purposely, but in fact trying to avoid it? Is it sudden acceleration, panic?
They cited her use of illicit substances as another factor in the crash. At this point, no one was denying that Mackenzie was in some way to blame for the tragedy.
The intent was obvious upon seeing that video that there was only one goal, and the computer demonstrated that there was no attempt to slow down or stop, that it was full speed into a building, and tragically it cost 2 people their lives.
During her recovery in the hospital, doctors noted that she expressed feelings of grief, guilt, and shame about the crash.
Patient stated she, open quote, wanted to die, close quote, and that it was her fault for killing her boyfriend.
Whether she'd lost control of the car or been in charge of it the entire time, she had killed her boyfriend and his friend, and she was going to be held legally responsible. Mackenzie claimed she did not remember the crash. She sent a text to Dominic's mother saying, "I remember turning onto the street, and then my vision fades to black. It really kills me not being able to remember anything. I've been asking my therapist why I don't remember, and she said it's because of trauma. But I'm gonna try to get hypnotized and make myself remember." If she didn't remember it, she could deflect the moral weight of what she had done. It would remain an accident, and she would not be a murderer. However, the police and prosecution took a different view. In their eyes, this was a cold, callously planned double homicide. Mackenzie, Dominic, and Davion had spent the night before the crash at a friend's house. They had smoked illicit substances, but this was not what lay at the heart of the horrific events to follow. Mackenzie had a plan, and she followed it. Pivotal to the case was the CCTV footage from a business neighboring the site of the crash. This footage supported what the car's recorded data showed about her behavior as a driver. Both technical analysis and the evidence of our own eyes watching the chilling video demonstrate that far from being high and out of control, Mackenzie's actions were entirely deliberate. The first video shows Mackenzie turning the car slowly and carefully from Pearl Road onto Alameda Drive. She diligently signaled her right turn, hardly the act of a substance-crazed, reckless teenager. But in the next piece of footage, something changed. The early morning was dark and quiet, until the car came tearing across the camera's view and smashed into a building. How could Mackenzie have gone from sober, careful driving to hitting a wall at speeds of 100 miles per hour in such a short space of time? Mackenzie had been to Strongville's Progress Drive Business Park before, and she knew exactly where and when she had to put her fuzzy Prada slipper down on the accelerator in order to kill everyone in the car. Her cell phone records held evidence that she had visited the area a few days before with the intent to kill, scouting out the scene of the future crime. She chose the area and the time early in the morning, before any witnesses would be around. This plan did not involve Davion. Davion only needed a ride home and was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Mackenzie did not think about him in the back seat. She treated him only as an item of luggage and had to be reminded by the judge of his tragic death when she was reading out her statement in court. Further evidence of the callous and cold way in which she'd snuffed out 2 young lives. The judge had no sympathy, describing her as literal hell on wheels.
This trial is a culmination of decisions made by one person, the defendant. Those decisions have forever altered the futures of 3 families, and of you also, Mackenzie. And your decisions forever robbed Dominic and Davion of the futures that they had before now. If there is one thing that can be taken away from this case, as painful as it is this. Every decision we make is important. Every action we make is important. Regardless of whether the decision is a good one or a bad one, or the actions are good or not, the result is the same. The consequences ripple through time and affect many more people than one might think at the time of the decision. In criminal cases, the state carries the greatest burden under our law, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. As I previously stated, I considered all the evidence presented, and at this point I would like to comment specifically on Exhibit 802, the crash video. This is the type of evidence you can never unsee. You can never forget the visual or audio of this exhibit. It is chilling and tragic. As you review that exhibit, you know that you are watching the oncoming deaths of 2 people, and there is nothing that will stop it. The video clearly shows the purpose and intent of the defendant. She chose a course of death and destruction that day. Exhibit 802 crystallizes the deadly decision-making of the defendant. She morphs from a responsible driver to literal hell on wheels as she makes her way down the street. Mackenzie alone made the decision to drive the car, to drive an obscure route, a route she visited a few days before, and a route not routinely taken by her. Mackenzie alone chose the time to make the drive, early in the morning, when any reasonable person would expect that few people would be nearby to witness it or offer life-saving assistance. She made these decisions despite knowing, as any reasonable person would, that her mission of death could have involved others, not even in the car with her, other people, other cars, pedestrians. She had a mission, and she executed it with precision. The mission was death. Mackenzie alone decided to push the pedal to the floor and demand the ultimate speed of that vehicle to 90 to 100 miles per hour. She alone decided what was to be. Mackenzie decided death was the ultimate goal that day, and she alone made that decision for Dominic and Davion, and she continuously acted in a manner to achieve her purpose. Whether or not she intended to also kill herself is a matter of speculation. They have no relevance to the weighing of the evidence in this case. The totality of the evidence clearly demonstrates that Mackenzie Shirilla acted purposely and intentionally in the early morning hours of July 31st, 2022, and her purpose was to kill Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan. No reasonable fact finder could view the totality of this evidence in this case and come to any other conclusion. Her actions were controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. This was not reckless driving. This was murder. Court renders the following verdicts. Count 1. The court, having had count 1 tried to pursuant to waiver, finds the defendant, Mackenzie Shirilla, guilty of murder, to wit Dominic Russo, in violation of Ohio Revised Code Section 2903.02a, is charged in count 1. Count 2. The court, having had count 2 tried to pursuant to waiver, finds the defendant, Mackenzie Shirilla, guilty of murder, to wit Davion Flanagan, in violation of Ohio Revised Code Section 2903.02a, is charged in count 2 of the indictment. Count 3, murder.
The judge found Mackenzie guilty of murder. Meanwhile, Mackenzie and her mother maintain that she is innocent of murder.
I just want to say to the families that I'm broken, sad, and lost, and my heart hurts for everyone, okay? Davion was her new friend, and Dom was the love of her life, and he was part of our family, okay? I'm just so sorry that this happened, and we're heartbroken, okay? And then, Your Honor, this was a terrible, tragic nightmare accident to have happened that she has no memory of, and she will never emotionally or physically recover from it. She almost died too, and we're asking that you please not run the sentence as consecutive. He was family, and we all loved each other. That morning of the accident, she called. I got a phone call that there was a car accident. Okay, so we went to the hospital, and I didn't even know who was in the car. The names had not been confirmed yet, and I'm going to cry because I missed Dom so much. We loved him so much. So I called Dom, like over and over again, praying that he was going to answer the phone, and he didn't answer the phone. So then I tried to call his mom, and she didn't answer the phone either. And I still didn't know who was in the car. I didn't even know if she was alive. I didn't know what was happening. So then we were in the waiting room, and then his mom she did call me, so I answered the phone, and I was like, oh my God, like, I don't even know who was in the car, like, what's happening, was that Dom? And she said, what do you mean, my son is dead? And I was like, I'm so sorry. And then she said something like, and now I have to wait until your kid's out of the hospital, and then I didn't hear the rest. I was like, we loved him so much, and I hung up the phone. I did not talk about social media. I didn't even know what was going on yet, okay? So then, that was it. So in the hospital, that Vitality post, I commented on that because somebody had called her a murderer, okay? And she's not a murderer, so she didn't even have her phone at that point because the police had still had it, okay? So I jumped on, and I was like, you know, she's not a murderer. She's more sad than hurt than most of these people commenting. She's been trying to get in touch with you. I mean, at that point, it was just an accident. So I commented on her behalf, not because of the modeling opportunity. Who cares about that? I don't want them to refer to her as a murderer, okay? And I don't even know how that comment got on the phone because the police still had her device, and she could not access her phone or social media. That's why I did it. I just wanted them to stop calling her a murderer so that when she did come to, and she did come out of surgery, multiple surgeries, that she wouldn't see all these people calling her a murderer because she would never, ever, ever murder the love of her life.
I'm hearing an awful lot about your daughter. I'm not hearing very much about the two dead people.
Dominic, okay, I'm asking you for a leniency because this was a tragic accident that she does not remember. And Davion, he's a new friend. And I'm so sorry.
What does that mean? His life is worthless?
No. God, no, not at all. They all loved each other. They all spent every day together. You know what I mean? I don't know too much for him.
Isn't that part of the problem with Mrs. Shirilla?
Sorry?
Isn't that part of the problem, that they all trusted each other? Isn't that part of...
It's not a problem at all. It was wonderful.
It's a problem how they all ended up in the car together and two women ended up dead.
I understand. I understand what it looks like. I'm saying that it was a tragic accident. She would never.
Well, we're going to have to disagree on that.
I understand.
Right. And I respect the position. If you disagree with me.
I understand. But anyway, that's it. I just wanted to address those. We told her to go to those things, and then she did go with Dom's family. So look at that. Don't look at it with the look on that with different eyes if you can, please.
Those things are not relevant.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. But she's a good. If you would have a moment, all you would need is 5 minutes of a conversation to have with her to learn who she is. Just that you would just need 5 minutes to learn who she is and what she's capable of not doing and doing, and you would see for yourself. That's all. I'm so sorry, guys.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I love you.
The families of Dom and Davia, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davion. We were all friends and Dom was my soulmate. I wish I could take all your pain away.
Her pleas did not help. The judge found Mackenzie guilty of murder. Mackenzie was sentenced to 2 15-year to life sentences to be served concurrently, meaning she'll be eligible for parole in 15 years' time. Some members of the victims' families found this unfair.
I am devastated by the loss of Davion. The world lost a truly special man.
Now that Davion is gone, I feel stuck. I feel as if I can't move forward.
Dom was not only my brother, he was also my best friend.
Be thankful that you're still alive and have a future, whatever that may be. Dom and Davion were robbed of their futures, their hopes, and their dreams.
A twisted, tumultuous relationship had ended in not one, but 2 horrific deaths.
We are just thankful that we feel justice was served today. There's not a day that goes by that we don't miss our son, and justice was served for him today. But honestly, there's no winners here. There's no winners here today.
What do you think? Is Mackenzie's sentence justice? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. At The Decoder, we gather evidence from reliable sources to bring you the truth about true crime. Your support is what keeps us going, so make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons on your way out. And also, don't forget to click the notification bell to not miss any of our uploads. Until next time, stay safe and take care. And we'll see you soon on The Decoder.